What sets you apart as a buyer's agent? Because if someone doesn't have points of difference, they're going to then be a commodity, and all that's left in choosing a buyer's agent is who has the lowest fee. As the market continues to change, goes further into the cycle, we really need to be more discerning. So very important to be evidence-based in the methodology, and that's what we do.
Welcome to Perth Property Insider, where you will learn how to grow your wealth and improve your life using Perth property. Our show is brought to you by Investors Edge Real Estate, the highly rated and award-winning property management, sales and buyers agency servicing the whole of Perth. Now, here's your host, Jared Mann.
G'day and welcome to another episode of Perth Property Insider. I'm your host, Jared Mann, and today I'm going to share with you my buyer's agent interview questions that I actually have put together and refined over the last 10-15 years as I've used buyer's agents myself before we ever even started a buyer's agency service here at Investors Edge. And now that we do have this service over the last 18 months, I'm really on the inside of the types of questions that you should look to ask. And the biggest challenge, I guess, with choosing any professional, and it's especially the case with the buyer's agent, is knowing those right questions to ask, especially if you've never used one before, or if you have limited experience. And I think even the seasoned investors will take something from this episode, because I'm really going to show you the inside view and take a real deep dive on the things to consider when choosing your buyer's agent. So I'll make this question list available in the show notes, so you can just copy it across and use it when interviewing buyer's agents. And I'm going to provide my answers here as to how we approach things so that you can compare and see who might be the right fit for you when next choosing a buyer's agent. And I've done previous episodes on is a buyer's agent even worth it? So check out that episode. We'll put it in the show notes. So I'm not really going to go into the value proposition today and what they can really do to return many times their cost to you in value. I cover that more in depth in that episode, so go check that out. And I'll also be referring to our property manager interview questions. I'll put a link to them in the show notes. So really, I think the choice of buyer's agent needs to go hand in hand with the choice of property manager, and both should be done before you go choosing a property, which most people do things the opposite way around. Choose a property, work out they should have used the buyer's agent later, and they go with the sales agent as the property manager because they think that they know the property, but they don't know anything about investing, and they're not a very good property manager either. So they wake up down the road, often have had subpar performance of their property. They've got headaches from a bad property manager, and then they come to us and say, geez, I wish we'd found you earlier. So hopefully this will short circuit that and give you a chance to see whether we might be the right fit. Now, first question. What suburbs or areas do you specialise in buying? Now, what we've seen over the last few years is an explosion of buyer's agents entering the marketplace, and many of them purchase properties all around Australia. So the biggest question to start with here is about what suburbs and areas do you specialise in? And I think you as an investor need to decide, do you want a local area specialist that's boots on the ground, living, eating, breathing the city suburbs that they're buying in and know them intimately? Or do you want someone that's more of a generalist that's following the market trends around Australia and buying wherever is hot and, not necessarily knowing the good parts of those suburbs or where not to buy, and they can really miss a lot of that boots on the ground knowledge that only comes from living there, knowing it intimately. So what suburbs or areas do you specialise in? Even within a city, some buyer's agents can specialise in higher end homes for owner-occupiers. Some can specialise in that more investment sort of property price points. And then others can specialise in just a specific geographical area like northern suburbs or southern suburbs or wherever. So at Investors Edge, we specialise in buying in Perth. And because we manage properties and sell properties and buy properties across the whole of Perth, we're not biased then to any specific areas. So if you go and ask a northern suburb buyer's agent specialist, where should you buy? Well, their answer is going to be in the north, isn't it? And so I think we've got enough generalization not to be biased, but what we're obviously biased on is Perth, and we're local experts, boots on the ground in Perth. And because we've got property managers, 12 of them, that live in, within a 15 to 20 minute radius of every suburb of Perth, that gives us a real intimate knowledge of what's happening in the rental market as well. And that feeds into our buying decisions. And we've seen how things were down, what happened when things were down in Perth. So we also mentioned that we've got our sales side. So we sell properties all over Perth. So that also gives us that perspective of what's happening, what has performed well, what didn't perform well in the down market. And so we feed that into our buyer's agency as well, and gives us a real edge and advantage on that perspective that an East Coast agent isn't going to have, and that perspective that a local buyer's agent that's a one-man band isn't going to have that perspective either, and have that, intimate knowledge. So next question, how do you determine where is best to buy? Oh, the $1 million question, really, isn't it? It's probably going to be the difference of, if you make an extra 2% gain over 30 years, it is going to make a difference of $1 million in your capital growth rate, in the growth that you experience. So how do you determine where is best to buy? And that's a great question to really solicit. How much research does this buyer's agent do? What's their methodology? You really want to go and understand that methodology for how they do it. So without giving all of our secrets away, you would have heard me speak about that we're very evidence-based in our selection. So we look at a combination of historical growth rates over 20 and 30 years. We then look at relative value of suburbs how have they grown over the last 10 years, and we try to buy in areas that aren't overheated yet compared to their 20 and 30-year growth rates. And then we overlay over the top of that short-term prediction tools to really give you the best chance of growth in the shorter term as well as the longer term. So that's our methodology, I guess, for selecting suburbs. We do put a fair few other things into the mix, such as looking at vacancy rates now that some suburbs are starting to soften a bit because there's an influx of investors to them that are just adding more rental properties than there are tenants to take them up in the shorter term. So we are very conscious of softening rental markets, keeping an eye on that vacancy rate. We're also looking at, is the suburb improving over time with its demographics? We want it to at least be maintaining its socioeconomic status, not going backwards. And then we overlay other sort of local knowledge aspects of what projects are happening to these areas, what else is going to drive jobs and bring, that stability of employment to an area. So we also exclude anywhere where there's a lot of land supply or lots of building approvals that are on the horizon. So we don't want to be buying on those areas because it's proven now that land supply keeps a lid on prices, and there isn't the pressure to increase prices as there would be if the land was limited. And that's just basic maths. It is proven. A number of larger research groups around Australia have done that. If you look on Google, you should be able to find it. Next question, what's your process for due diligence? And boy, oh boy, having used lots of different buyer's agents myself, I can tell you that, relating back to the last question, many of them have very little degree of research and ability to choose a suburb. I know firsthand because I've seen what quite a number of very successful buyer's agents do when I've used them and seen their research methodologies. We also see what a number of them do when clients purchase properties and share with us some of the research they've been given. And leading into this next question, what is your process for due diligence? Now, it's a real balancing act because you want to see what's important. You want to see what's going to affect rentability and future growth and resale value. You want to see key reasons for why that suburb stacks up. Then I believe you want to look at why the area stacks up. And then does the property stack up? So we've developed a very unique process we call our trifecta criteria. And we look at each of those three areas And it'll be very clear to you when you see the simplicity of our approach, but how powerful it is. And we're looking at the important things without bamboozling you with analysis paralysis. And some of the buyer's agents I've seen, they go one way or the other. It's very basic. Some of them just send you a comparative market analysis, a CMA for a rental appraisal and for a sale appraisal, and say, yeah, this suburb's hot, buy here, and here's it's worth for rent and sale. And that's as basic as it gets. And then others go and give you reams of pages and pages and pages of stuff that's just completely not important to the decision, and you can feel very overwhelmed. And it can be very hard when you're bringing your partner along, especially if they're not that interested in real estate and investing. We find our trifecta criteria really makes sense to both decision makers, even if they aren't interested in real estate and they're not an experienced investor. You'll see very clearly, very quickly with our trifecta criteria whether a property is going to stack up or not. And I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty exclusive things that we look at in there, but if you've come on board as a client or if you're considering us, we can share an example format with you. Next question, give me examples of properties you've bought in my budget price. So I think this is an important one. Obviously, it's pretty hard for me to answer on a podcast. So if you're getting in touch with us to consider us, I'd suggest asking the question. We can tailor those answers to your exact budget. And I think it's important to sort of get a feel for, what sort of type of properties they're purchasing. So some buyer's agents may have reluctance to show you this because they don't want you to necessarily know the suburbs and areas that you're buying in, that they're buying in when you're not committed and on board as a client. So they might just black out the suburb street name, but give you a feel for, okay, what is your budget going to get you in terms of, is it going to be what type of property and what type of tenant is that going to attract? Next question, what sets you apart as a buyer's agent? Because if someone doesn't have points of difference, well, they're going to then be a commodity, and all that's left in choosing a buyer's agent is who has the lowest fee. Now, I don't probably need to tell you, but when you pay the lowest fee and you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, and that result is going to be significantly less than the return you're going to get from paying slightly bit extra, paying for a decent buyer's agent. And that's why you really want to know why to choose them and why they're different. So reasons that people choose us is we're very evidence-based. I ran through my methodologies earlier for choosing a suburb and for our trifecta criteria, very evidence-based, and it'll be evident to everyone whether this makes a good purchase or not. And it's so much better than throwing darts at a board and just hoping. And yes, in Perth over the last 2 to 3 years, you could have pretty much bought anywhere and experienced really great growth. But as the market continues to change, goes further into the cycle, we really need to be more discerning as vacancy rates start to increase, as certain suburbs start to become overvalued. It's going to be very disproportionate as to where on the returns that you'll get if you buy in a really undervalued good area versus one that's already experienced way too much growth and's hitting the top of its peak. So very important to be evidence-based in the methodology, and that's what we do. And we're highly experienced is the other reason people choose us. We know the market and what's going to perform for rental and resale, and our property management and sale experience really gives us that knowledge. And when you're just a buyer's agent and don't have those other two strengths to your business and your company, then you're really lacking that knowledge and you can't bring it into informing your buyer's agency choice. So I find that this leads into our next reason people choose us. We have a holistic service offering, end-to-end services. And if someone's looking for a strategic portfolio plan, we start out with that. And most buyer's agents in Perth don't offer that. And we then roll into our buyer's agency once we've got a really clear plan. We then have our property management, which is world-class, one of Australia's most awarded and highly rated. And then we have our property sales, which is highly awarded and top performing as well. So we never buy properties that we're selling, just to be clear. So there's never any conflict of interest, but we use all of our relationships and and knowledge from the sales and property management side to make us better at buyer's agency. Now, next question. Do you do the inspections and final inspections yourself? So this really bugs me because East Coast agents, some of them we've started working with for property management, they end up buying properties that haven't been properly inspected. They don't do either the first inspection or the final inspection themselves. They're outsourced completely, and that can leave a big gap between what the investor thinks they're getting and what they're actually getting, and things can be missed and not seen. So nothing really replaces a boots on the ground inspection by somebody who knows the area, knows what they're looking at, and knows if this is going to be present any kind of problems for rentability or future resale, and that the education of the person is critical. So very important that that's done, I believe. Next question. What methods do you use to source property? So key question to sort of finding out and leading into how much of the properties that they buy are off market, which is another good question to ask. So in our case, over the last 6 months, we've purchased approximately 20% of properties off market. And the reason that that figure's decreased a lot is that in a super hot market like Perth at the moment, most sellers are going to opt to go to market and not end up selling off market because they know that they can get so much more. And as a sales agents don't even know the price really that a property is going to go to. So the only way to know is really to go out to the marketplace and see. So leading into this question, what methods do you use to source property? Well, we have our network of sales agents that we regularly buy through that get us access to properties off market and pre-market. And the other thing that I find is pretty different with us is we have developed a network of buyer's agents, and we've got 17 buyer's agents on our network. Most of them use us for property management, and we regularly swap deals around the network and pay each other a referral fee. If we discover a really great off-market property that we don't have a buyer for, I may as well send it to one of the other buyer's agents, and likewise they send stuff to us, and I'm happy to pay a referral fee because it gives us access to, sourcing a property that is off market that we can, have a clear run at and not have much competition. And that's going to give us a bit of an edge. Now, a lot of investors think that off-market properties are the be-all and end-all, and that's everything. Now, it still comes down to price and making sure that you don't overpay. And there also can be very important reasons as to why a seller would consider selling off-market. You've got to look through to what those reasons are. If the property's got a tenancy in place and it's fixed tenancy, then that can be a valid reason and prompt them to do it. If it's really poorly presented, you need to know what you're getting into and make sure you budget for any fix-ups and bring the property back up to standard. And if it's just they need to get out quickly, might be going through one of the 4Ds, then that could be another valid reason too. But if it's because they're wanting too much more than what the agent thinks they can get on the market, and they've just thrown a super high price at you, and you've jumped at it because you don't truly know prices and where they're at in the area, then an off-market deal's not worth going for. All right, next question. How long has the process taken from initiation to purchase for your last 5 clients, and how long does it typically take to secure a purchase? So here at Investor's Edge, we're typically buying properties within the first 2 months, the vast majority. And over this last month, we've secured for each new client a property in the first month. So that's a very quick turnaround, and it does sound quick, but it's because we're so intensive. And if you turn around to me tomorrow and say, Jared, my budget is this amount, we are already going to know who we're going to speak to as a sales agent, which areas we're going to focus on. Our research is all up to date. We know that we've likely bought there recently. We know what the prices are. We know what other offers we've made on properties. We know what we've missed out on. We know how hot that market is. We know what properties are going to rent for. Our job is to make the whole process as easy as possible. And sometimes that can feel too quick for people. They feel like, no, I want things to take longer. So I feel like you've worked hard for your buyer's agency fee. Well, I'm here to make things easy and quick, and it's all of our combined experience that goes into making things quicker. So we can take longer if you want, but we're probably not the right buyer's agent for you if that's the case. Now, how long has our longest search taken? We've had one search that has lasted 10 weeks and one search that has lasted 11 weeks. And in each of those cases, we made lots of different offers on properties and missed out for various reasons. It is super competitive. Some people just don't have the luck, whereas others, we come in, first property we offer on, it might be off market, we don't have the competition, or we know the agent, so they'll tell us the price to come in over the top of the other buyers at. For each of these two buyers, they had more of a unique criteria that we were looking for. And I'm really happy that we still pulled in the searches at 10 weeks and 11 weeks. So no longer than that has it ever taken us. And as I say, most of our purchases are made within the first 1 to 2 months, most within the first month. And that leads me into the next question, which I've already answered, is what has been your longest searches? And take them through sort of what happened and why. So that's a good question to ask as well. Now, as we're starting to get down to the pointy end, buyer's agents can make all kind of promises, and some of them are extremely slick with what they say and what they promise. But I think the question of do you have any guarantees really makes a promise have a consequence if it's not met. And any guarantee that's worth its salt should have a real consequence if it's not met. So our main guarantee for our buyer's agency, people seem to really resonate with. It's our delighted guarantee. And if you're not absolutely delighted with your experience, you can basically pay nothing for our buyer's agency service. And that really ensures people get value. And I've been asked by other buyer's agents, I get it quite often, they say, aren't you worried, Jared, that one of your clients is not going to pay you for making a purchase? And I say to them, well, aren't you worried you're going to force one of your clients to pay you for something that they don't value? Say that again. I'm more worried about charging a client if they don't see value, and that's why we offer this guarantee of them being delighted and only paying us if they see value and if they're delighted in the overall experience. So I think that's really important. Now, what percentage of off-market... Oh, yeah, we've already answered that one. What percentage of off-market properties have you secured for clients over the last 6 months? How good would you say your property management is on a scale of 1 to 10? Now, I can honestly, hand on heart, say that our property management is the duck's nuts of Perth. We're a 10 most days of the week. Sometimes we're not infallible. We're a 9 sometimes, other times. But we are one of the most highly awarded and rated property managers in Australia. You need to jump on Google. Our overall business has got nearly 1,000 5-star reviews. We're just approaching that number. And that's obviously for buyers, sellers, tenants, and landlords. It's the whole package. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I can say that we're world class. And you really, I think, get a major benefit in having a holistic service. When you choose your buyer's agent, if it flows through to an amazing property management, then you know there's going to be continuity. You know that the rental price that they tell you is much more likely going to be met. You know that they have that rentability and that rental experience feeding into their purchase decisions. And you know that it's going to be a lot more seamless, and they have a vested interest in making a good purchase because they're going to be around for the next 10, 20 years to manage the property, and they don't want to be giving themselves headaches either. So think about where that motivation lies very strong in not wanting to purchase headaches, manage. And I think a lot of buyer's agents are just transactional. They make their purchase, they're gone. If you have troubles getting a tenant, not only in the upfront, but in 1-2 years, they're not going to be around. Most of them aren't anyway. And finally, leading on from that, can you arrange for me to speak to your property management side to see if we're the right fit, as this will have a large bearing on my decision? And, you know, we've got our property manager interview questions, so check out that episode, which we'll put in the show notes as well. That's going to answer a lot of your questions, and you can browse our website, put everything on there, and that's going to give you a real flavour for whether we're the overall right fit on both buyer's agency as well as property management. And then finally, I think it's important for whoever you choose to have that selling service on the back end too, because that holistic service is just appreciated so much by our clients. They know that if they ever come to sell a property, we're going to be doing it strategically. We're going to be doing it at the right time for them and the time for the market. We're going to maximize the price. We're going to present the property really well. We've looked after it all the way along, so it's going to be presenting well. We're going to do any finer touches and minor improvements to present it. We're going to stage it if we need to as well, and we're going to get as much as possible for them to take their next steps. So that's, do they have a sales service in-house, I think is the final question to ask, and is really going to give you insight as to whether they can help with that holistically with your property needs. Awesome. Well, hopefully that helps when you're next interviewing a buyer's agent. And I think it's really given a good insight as to how broad the considerations need to be and how we approach things as well. So if we can help on the buyer's agency side, do get in touch and we can meet online and take you through the final details of those things. I hope you have a good week, and if this has been helpful, do share it with any friends, do post a review on Spotify or iTunes. I'd really appreciate it. Do read every one of them, and I certainly love and appreciate that you tune in. Thanks a lot. Just a reminder, the information discussed in this podcast is general in nature. As we don't know your specific situation, you should always seek professional advice before taking any action. For free market reports on your suburbs of interest and other helpful resources to grow your wealth, make sure you join my property investor update at investorsedge.com.au/join. And finally, make sure you're a member of our Perth Property Investment Facebook group to be part of the conversation with other like-minded investors, get help to your questions, and get a feel for what's going on out there in the market. I'll see you in the group.